Jai Hind, dear students, good morning. Today we are going to study a story named The Open Window, written by Hector Munro. Alright students, now before we read the story, let me tell you a bit about the author. H. Munro, popularly known as Saki, was born in the year 1870 on 18th December. He was a British writer whose witty, mischievous, and sometimes macabre stories satirized the Edwardian society and culture. He is considered a master of short story and is often compared to O. Henry. He was influenced by Oscar Wilde, Lewis Carroll, and Kipling. Besides his short stories, he also wrote a full-length play named The Watched Pot in collaboration with Charles Mott. He also wrote a historical study of the rise of the Russian Empire and a short novel, The Unbearable Bessington. Saki was well known for his wit, humor, and ironical endings. Alright students, now let me introduce you with the story. The Open Window is a short story first published in Saki's collection Beast and Super Beast in the year 1914. The setting of the story is a quiet country town. The story is about a young girl who plays a practical joke on a man called Frampton Nuttall. I am sure children you all know what a practical joke is. You must have played a practical joke on your friends very often. It also happens in the month of April, especially on April Fool's Day, on 1st April, right? Everyone tries to fool each other on April 1st. Well, practical jokes are common in life. If there is no humor in our life and if we don't laugh, we can never be happy, right? Happiness is there when we are with our friends. Happiness is there when our friends tease us. This is a part of life. We all feel happy when we listen to jokes, when we see comedy. We all feel happy when we read a humorous story. Now, this story is also a humorous story, students, but it has an ironical ending. What is an ironical ending? What is irony? Irony is something you expect at the end to be in a particular way, and then it is not that. You come and see a surprise in the end. That is what we'll see in the story. The story has a surprise ending. That is why we say it has an ironical ending. Children, this story, The Open Window, is a short story set in a drawing room in a village wherein a young man comes to make friends with a lady called Mrs. Stapleton because he is new to the village. Alright students, now let us learn more about the story. The story basically has three characters, important characters actually. See the first one, Mr. Frampton Nuttall. A nervous man who arrives in a new town seeking relaxation in order to alleviate an unspecified nervous disorder. Then the next character we have is Vera, who is a 15-year-old girl who greets Frampton and informs him of her aunt's great tragedy. Then we have Mrs. Stapleton, Frampton's host and Vera's aunt. Then we have one more character in the story, Frampton Nuttall's sister. She writes several letters of introduction to keep her brother, Frampton, from being lonely on his retreat to the countryside. Then of course at the end of the story you will be introduced to three more characters, and that we are going to discuss in our next class, right? Because the page that we are going to cover today has these characters in it, right? Alright students, now open page number 84 in your book. Read the text quickly. One of you please read the text aloud. Who will read? One of you please read. Then I am going to explain the same, okay? Okay, now let me tell you what the author has described. Frampton Nuttall is a young man who lives in the city, but he has had a nervous problem. Okay, so he wants to recuperate. His sister insists that he goes to the village and takes rest so that he feels better, because there he will be away from the urban life, which is busy, which is full of noise, full of pollution. So his sister suggests and asks him to go to the village, stating that she had lived in the village 4 years back and she would give him letters of introduction. Okay, so what are letters of introduction? She would write letters stating that Frampton Nuttall is her brother and he has come to the village to recuperate and get well, and he should take these letters of introduction to different houses, to people whom she had known earlier, so that they can look after him well, especially in times when he is not feeling well. So Frampton Nuttall comes to the village and visits one such house. The mistress of the house is Mrs. Sepleton. Frampton comes to the house and he is greeted by a young girl called Vera, who is a 15-year-old girl, and the author described her as a self-possessed young girl who is very confident about herself, who knows what she is talking, and the one who is very, very clever. So she welcomes him and tells him that aunt will come soon to greet him. Now Mr. Nuttall searched in vain for the proper greeting for a teenage girl, while privately lamenting that these meetings with strangers arranged by his sister likely wouldn't do him any good. He was doubtful if he could find a cure for his nerve disease. Now Frampton silently reflected on his recent move to the area, which he refers to as a rural retreat. His sister, who once lived here, worried that he will hide himself away there and mop, thus making his nerves worse. So she has given him the names and addresses of all the people she knows in the area and told him to go and introduce himself to them. Now, after a few minutes of silence, the girl, Vera, inquired if he knew anyone in the surrounding, if he knew many people in the village. So he gently answered that he was new to the place and it was his sister who stayed there about 4 years ago, right? Alright students, now we are going to read this story further in our next class, right? Now what you'll do in homework? You'll revise this page once again, and also you'll write down the difficult words given on page number 84 in your notebook, right? You'll copy down those difficult words in your notebook. Okay? That's all for this day, students. Jai Hind. Stay home, stay safe.